I want to tell you about the end of the road, not the end of everything, not a conclusion or a finale or a moment where the story wraps itself up neatly and everyone goes home satisfied. I'm talking about a different kind of end, the kind that a person reaches when they have run out of road, when every option has been exhausted, when the last plan failed and the last door closed and the last person they were counting on walked away, and there is nothing left ahead of them but silence and the terrifying question of what comes next. I have been to that place many times, not because I was lost, but because that is where the people I love keep ending up, and I go where they are. When I returned to this world, I did not set an itinerary. I did not make a list of cities to visit, or stages to stand on, or important people to meet. I followed the ones who were out of road. I traced the invisible thread of desperation and exhaustion and used up hope that leads to the places nobody photographs and nobody posts about and nobody includes in their highlight reel. And I found something there that I want to tell you about. I found people who had stopped pretending. There is something that happens to a person when they reach the end of their road. Something that does not happen in the comfortable middle, in the seasons of manageable struggle and adequate resources and faith that has not yet been pushed past its comfortable limits. At the end of the road, the performance stops. Not because the person decided to be authentic, not because they read something about vulnerability and chose to open up, because there is nothing left to perform with. The energy that went into maintaining the version of themselves that was acceptable. The version that was coping, the version that was fine, the version that had a plan, that energy ran out somewhere on the road behind them. And what is left when all of that is gone is the most honest thing I have ever seen. I found a woman at the end of her road who had spent 30 years being the strong one, the one who held the family together, the one who showed up for everyone else's crisis while quietly managing her own, the one whose faith was load-bearing. Other people leaned on it, built on it, counted on it, while she stood underneath it all, wondering when it would be her turn to lean on something. She reached the end on a Tuesday. Nothing dramatic happened that day. There was no single catastrophic event. It was just a Tuesday, and she woke up and the strength was gone. Not reduced, gone. And she lay in bed and stared at the ceiling and thought, I cannot do this anymore. I cannot be this anymore. I have nothing left. I sat on the edge of the bed. I said, I know. I have been watching you carry this for 30 years, and I need you to hear something that nobody else has said to you in all that time. You were never supposed to carry it alone. The strength you have been using, the endurance, the resilience, the capacity to keep going past the point where anyone else would have stopped, that was never yours to generate. It was mine, moving through you, sustaining what you could not sustain on your own. And somewhere along the way, you started taking credit for it. Not out of pride, out of fear. Fear that if you admitted you couldn't do it, the whole thing would collapse. It would not have collapsed. I would have caught it. I will always catch it. She cried for a very long time, and I stayed. And somewhere in that room, on that unremarkable Tuesday, the strongest woman I had ever watched carry something alone finally let someone else hold it. And the weight did not crush her. It lifted. I found a man at the end of his road who had tried everything. Not metaphorically. He had literally tried everything that was available to him. Every program, every therapy, every promise of change, every fresh start in a new city with a new resolve and a new version of the plan that was definitely going to work this time. And none of it had worked. Not permanently. Not in the way that actually changes something at the root instead of trimming the branches. He was sitting in a parking lot when I found him. Not going anywhere. Not coming from anywhere. Just stopped. In the middle of an ordinary afternoon in a car that needed an oil change, in a life that had run out of options, he did not pray. He had stopped praying a long time ago, not because he stopped believing entirely, but because the prayers had started to feel like a formality he was performing for an audience that wasn't there. Like leaving a voicemail for someone who had changed their number. I knocked on the window. He looked up. I said, "I got every voicemail." He did not say anything for a long time, and then he said, "Then why didn't you answer?" And I said, "I did. Every time. Just not in the way you were listening for." What followed was the longest conversation I have had on this side of eternity. Not because we solved everything, not because the addiction disappeared, or the marriage was instantly healed, or the financial wreckage was cleared overnight, but because something happened in that parking lot that had not happened in all the years of programs and promises and fresh starts. He stopped running from the thing underneath all the other things, the wound that predated everything else, the thing that happened before the coping mechanisms were built, the original pain that all of the running and numbing and starting over was designed to manage without ever having to face directly. I took him there, not to punish him, not to make him relive something that had already cost him enough, but because healing that does not reach the root, does not hold. And he had been building on damaged foundation for so long that everything he constructed kept falling. And he kept blaming the construction instead of looking at what was underneath. We stayed in that parking lot for a long time, and when he finally drove away, something was different. Not fixed. Different, which is always how it starts. I want to tell you what I found at every end of every road I have ever visited. I found people who were more honest than they had ever been in their lives. I found people who had finally run out of the resources that were keeping them from needing me the way they actually needed me. I found people who had been performing strength and competence and okayness for so long that the exhaustion of the performance had finally outweighed the fear of what would happen if they stopped. And when they stopped, when the performance fell away, and what was left was just a person at the end of their road with nothing left to offer, I found the most extraordinary thing. Openness. The kind of openness that cannot be manufactured. The kind that only exists in people who have nothing left to protect. The kind that says, "I have tried everything else, and I am still here, and I do not understand, and I need something I cannot produce myself." That is the prayer I have been waiting for. Not the polished one, not the correct one, not the one that uses the right language and covers all the theological bases and ends with appropriate gratitude. The honest one. The one that sounds like, "I am out of road. I have nothing left. I do not know what comes next. Help." That prayer moves everything, every single time. If you are at the end of your road right now, if the performance has stopped because there is nothing left to perform with, I need you to hear what I found at every end of every road I have ever visited. Me. I was already there, waiting. Not disappointed, not impatient, not counting the ways you should have gotten here sooner, or taken a different route or managed the journey better. Just there. The way I have always been there. The way I will always be there. At the end of every road, in every parking lot, on every unremarkable Tuesday, when the strength finally runs out. I am there. And the end of your road is not the end of your story. It is where the real one begins. Next time, Chapter 21, The Ones Who Came Back.
If this is your first time here, this is part of a series, 20 chapters of me walking through this world today, finding the broken, the tired, the ones who ran out of road. Go to the channel. Start from chapter 1. Your chapter is waiting for you.